Goal of the 9-yard line. Hamilton keeps it. Touchdown.
Yeah, y'all already know what time it is. Same suit, Jerry Heated, and we're in the huddle with Joe Hamilton. Man, I was just that show open hot, man. Got the accolades underneath. I'm like, okay,
my goodness.
Joe, I remember you, man. A lot of my friends, when they watch the show, man, they say, man, you work with Joe. They say, man, you know, he inspired me when he played. I looked up to him. I wanted to be like Joe when I played football and things like that. So I was like, yeah, you know, he was. I remember, you know, being in West Georgia and watching those games, man. And man, I mean, there was some of the great times in college football. Georgia Tech, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Georgia. I mean, the ACC.
And it never gets old, Nadi. And it
Right,
never
right.
gets old, Nadi. It never gets old, man. And that's why I enjoy that opening. I enjoy watching those highlights and the accolades, and that I can watch it by myself. It doesn't have to be anybody around. It's just the chill bumps it gives me. It puts me right back in that space back 20, 25 years ago in the competition when you see Champ Bailey and Peter Warwick and Warwick Dunn and, you know, Chris
Right.
Winkie, Champ
Right.
Bailey, Richard Seymour. Some of those battles that you just mentioned, those teams, it puts you right back in your mindset in that. I mean, a lot of different people can eat, Nadi. A lot of different people can go out there and ball, and you can give the respect to your peers. You can give your respect to your competitors. And then when you look at it years later, you can go look back and say that our era was pretty good. Our era was a competing era. Our era was one of those things that where you got to remember that era in the athletes that came through. So I take pride in that, no doubt.
Like I say, I had a lot of people in my generation who was watching those games and looking up to you while you were playing and those guys. Who inspired you to play on the level that you played at, you know, when you was going to Georgia Tech, or just your college football journey in itself?
Man, when Charlie Ward touched the nation, when he touched Joe Hamilton household, that was it. I mean, I wore my towel like Charlie Ward. I play faked like Charlie Ward. I stood in the pocket like Charlie Ward. All the mannerisms, all the leadership tactic when he was at Florida State for 2 years, 93 and 94. It was all about Charlie Ward. And that journey was being athletic, being accurate, being a student athlete, and making sure that you handle things off the field. Everything that he embodied, Charlie Ward, I wanted to simulate. I wanted to do it exactly how he did it, even to the point where I thought I could go to college and play, be a dual sport athlete, because I played a lot of sport, not a lot, but I did play basketball in high school as well. I'm thinking I could go to a college and also be a dual threat sport, a guy like Charlie Ward was, but there's no doubt about it. Charlie Ward and his whole entire mechanics, his game, I assimilated. No doubt about it.
Well, speaking of college basketball, we are in March Madness. We are in March Madness. And I imagine you've been keeping up with college basketball, huh?
Oh, absolutely. This is the time. Now, even Nadi, if I don't keep up with it every single Saturday or every single Tuesday, when I grew up, it was Big Monday. Now it's, Tuesday, some games on Tuesday. I watch the big games now, leading up into the tournaments, the conference tournaments, and the seeding, bracketology, and the West, the East, and the South regions. All those things incite me because I love to fill out brackets. I love to fill out brackets to where you can listen to the analysts. I'll trust Jay Billis. I'll trust Jay Williams, some of those guys who kind of know exactly what's the coach name who used to coach at Virginia Tech. He does an excellent job with ESPN. Seth, I
know.
remember his.
Yeah, his name is slipping out my
Oh,
tongue too.
yeah, but he's a two-time ACC Player of the Year, Coach of the Year with Virginia Tech. But they breaking it down and say who to watch out for, who to look out for, the sleepers, Iowa State,
Right.
BYU, and some of those teams you don't get to see often. That's the guys you look out for. But I'm intrigued and I'm excited just to see. And I'm an ACC guy, but I'm excited to see how the SEC is taking over this thing, man.
Yeah, the SEC had 14 teams, which is a record to make the tournament, which gives them the odds to somebody out of the SEC should be in the national championship or should win it.
You know, and that's a great point. I thought about that earlier today. If nobody makes it to the Final Four from the SEC, is that a failure? We know about this. We know about the dance. We know about the dance that, it's one and done. You lose, you go home. You win, you go on. And you can have an off night to where that rim can close up, have some turnovers, miss some free throws, foul trouble, and then you lose to a team you shouldn't lose to. So is it just the fact that they got 14 teams in, or they must cash it in if the Final Four? Is a great question.
That is, when I was coming up, it was the ACC. The ACC was the conference, the power basketball conference. The SEC was kind of weak. You was tough at the top with Kentucky. Women's, you had Tennessee, but it was ACC. Now, this year, North Carolina, there was a lot of controversy on whether or not they got put in through the politics, whether they actually deserve to be in. And then last night, we saw they beat the brakes off San Diego State and showed that they were worthy.
It's called Jimmy's and Joe's. It's called talent. They play San Diego State 5 times. The Tar Heels will beat them 5 times because that's a mismatch. That's tall, lanky on the perimeter. And when you look at it, whether you want to call it politics, Nadi, or favoritism or favor, I'm going to say what it is. I'm going to call it the name on the front of the jersey. I'm going to call it your reputation. The North Carolina Tar Heels got in there for their reputation of being a blue blood. Their reputation of always being there in national championship, Dean Smith, Roy Williams. We understand that now. You got Hubert Davis coaching. We understand that. But you can't tell me that when you look at their resume, that their resume said that they should have gotten in the tournament. That's just not the case. I think it was all about their reputation and all about the name on the front of the jersey.
Well, it worked out this time, and
just this time. Though, see, that's the great point. It worked out, but I still have the same stance if they had lost last night. That they got in and they shouldn't have been in. But
correct.
You have some of the analysts saying now that you mess around, they can get all the way to the Sweet 16.
It's funny. It's funny how that works, right? They don't deserve to be here. What are they doing here? Oh, they can make a run.
Right.
Which one is it? Can they make a run or what? Now you had a buzzer beater last night with the Alabama State and St. Francis game. So March Madness is already March Madness, which is why I think a lot of people love this time of the year, Joe.
Yeah, and you can't do anything about it as far as expectations and whether your antennas are up and you're on the edge of your seat. Where do you go from here? This is just what the NCAA ordered. This is just what college basketball ordered. The opening night, the first night where you have games, you had a executed play almost like a Hail Mary in football. I saw that, and I also saw the game this past week when you had Indiana Pacers playing, I think it was the Milwaukee Bucks. And that play that they ran in the last minute for Halliburton to tie it up with a 4-point play, it was almost designed. It was a pick route, like a football pick route to get somebody open. It was worked to perfection. And I kind of saw the same thing last night with Alabama State. You had to run to the corner, hopefully run to the sideline. Hopefully you get a tip ball or a loose ball, pick it up and scramble. And that's what March Madness is all about. And sometimes you don't think it's going to happen, Nadi, because the favored teams are watching. the favorite teams are getting themselves ready to say we're not gonna let this Cinderella upset us. We're not gonna let a 15 seed be the 2 seed or a 16 be the 1 seed. We're not gonna be that team. We're not gonna be those guys. And then all of a sudden, you get in there, your palms get a little sweaty. You're a neutral site. Let's not lose sight of that. The neutral site. And then when the team's left over or that fan base is left over, then you look at it and say, hey, instead of rooting for the favorite team, they rally behind the underdog, and then the underdog has home field advantage, so to speak. And then the whole momentum changes a little bit. So a lot to go into March Madness, man. I love every bit of it.
That is, and this is the In the Huddle with Joe Hamilton. I am Naughty. And we got a guest today. We have a contributor from the 3-point conversion and college basketball coast to coast. I've been knowing him a long time. This brother is a Michigan State lover, so we're gonna have to talk. I'm gonna have to find out why he's so loyal to Michigan State. But you might know him too, Deshaun Tate, and we're gonna welcome Deshaun Tate in to the building. Deshaun, what's happening, man?
Man, appreciate you guys for having me. Top of the afternoon, man. I tell people all the time that when you start hearing Mariah Carey, then we're getting closer to Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you guys. That's what time it is in the Tate residence right now. And listen, man, there's no better time. I know everybody, loves NFL, playoffs and NBA playoffs and MLB in October and all that stuff. But when it come down to them upsets and Cinderellas and buzzer beaters and a lot of these kids that's probably never going to get a chance to see an NBA floor in their life, and some names are going to be made miraculously and going to get millions of dollars, just based off of what they do in March Madness, So there's so many different elements to this. I can go on and on and on, but this is the best time of the year. And I'm pretty sure that doesn't surprise nobody when I say that.
Go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to say to Deshaun, and then you can add on to it, and we'll get into it a little bit later. But I mean, with the women's game and the notoriety they're bringing to the aspect of college basketball, and just the plays that they're running and the skill set they're evolving and showing us, even last year with Caitlin Clark and this year with Juju and Beckers and some of those other girls, and even the coaches with Oriema and the coaches with Don Staley as well, to add on with that, and what the SEC is doing with getting 14 teams in and all these new bloods and new teams, it adds on to the excitement you going down the road and you're looking forward to.
It does, because, whenever you add that extra element to it, and they've been doing a great job with the girls' game. Now, the first thing I'll say is this, just so I can be super transparent. I don't believe in going on nobody's program and playing radio. I would never pretend to be the person that appears or sounds like they watch the women's game just as much as somebody else. It's hard enough already trying to keep up with 363 Division I men's teams and having some bullet point, at least one, to say something about them because of this time of the year with March Madness. But having being a recently new dad and everything like that, of course, I guess I better get used to it because I got a daughter now. So I guess it's time to start finding out who's the best or what, and so on and so forth with the girls' game. But no, I think that adds an extra element to it, and it just puts more eyes and ears, which I'm never going to complain about, on the sport of basketball because of what the women's game has been. And plus, looking at it on the collegiate side, and this is, I promise you, not a dig on the WNBA by any stretch of the imagination. But whenever you implement the collegiate side of any sport, right? I don't know. I just tend to really just gravitate a little bit more towards that. Whenever you're talking about, college football versus the NFL, respectfully, college basketball versus the NBA, college basketball for women's versus the WNBA. It just adds a different kind of an element.
Pageantry,
sportsmanship, all of these different things. And who doesn't love seeing a kid achieve their dreams? And, sometimes we tend to overly think about what this kid is going to be on the next level. That could be Zion. That could be Cooper Flagg. That could be, you insert that name here. Sometimes we don't do nearly enough of appreciating what we see of them right now and their greatness on this level.
Deshaun, we talked about North Carolina, their victory last night, as well as Alabama State, their victory last night. Now we have a game about to tip off between Texas and Xavier. What should we look for into this game? What should the people be paying attention in this matchup, in this play-in matchup?
Probably Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson being a guy who's a lottery pick. He's playing for Texas. I think that when you look at Texas and the job that Coach Terry has done, it's been a good one, maybe not a great one per se, but finding a way to get into the NCAA tournament. They're a team that they play together. I don't think that there's much of a question about that, but I do think there's some instances where they kind of veer off and get away from their bread and butter. If you look at Texas, just not even just this year, but overall as a program, right? You look at some of the best talent that we've had in college basketball in terms of just individual programs. Texas is always right there. They're just typically ones that are kind of hard to trust around this time of the year. And then when you look at head coach Sean Miller from over at Xavier, who was formerly over at Arizona, right? Him going back, I think, to Xavier now at this point. I think this is his second stint. So he's going to have those guys very well coached. I like Texas in this game, but I know it's going to be very, very tough because Xavier just one of those Midwest teams that typically can come out of nowhere and make a run. And if you don't remember anything else, always keep in mind that there's always one of these games that we watch in the first four of teams of that which end up making a run in the NCAA tournament. Maybe not necessarily in the Final Four per se, like Shaka Smart did with VCU when they were 11 seed the very first year of this thing in 2011. I think I got a good feeling that is North Carolina. But if there's another team out there that I think that can do such things, I think that team would be Xavier. I like what Sean Miller is cooking over there.
Yeah, that's kind of funny there. All the questions about whether North Carolina could get in or should they be in, to a lot of people saying now, including myself, that they got a really good chance to get to the Sweet 16 and move further. How do you kind of grasp or get your Final Four teams? Do you work it inside out? I know you have favorites, the number 1 seed and number 2 seed. I know some people pick the 5-12 matchup or the 11-6 matchup, or do you go senior guards, or do you go big man? Do you go coaches on the sideline? I know some of those things are going to be all inclusive, but when you come down to picking your Final Four teams, what are you kind of basing that on to try to pick your national championship winner?
I think there's a combination of so many things, and many of those things you've already named. So I think the first thing that I do outside of ordering me a large meat lover's pizza to tip off Selection Sunday, because that's always a go-to in my household. Whenever there's Selection Sunday, I got my mom here visiting. I promise you I'll try not to make this a long answer. But whenever March Madness, it's 2 times that Mama Tate will tell you leave him alone, don't bother him. That's NBA draft night and Selection Sunday. So I'm really just trying to really focus and lock in and not over analyzing things, because it's so easy to be able to pick so many Cinderellas, and sometimes you got too many. You know that there's going to be 1, maybe 2, but a lot of times once you get to Sweet 16 and Elite 8, you're going to start seeing a lot of chalk along the way. There are going to be some upsets, obviously, in the first round and potentially second round, more so first round than you will second. A lot of those mid-major teams will tend to win a game, but not necessarily 2 games to go to the Sweet 16. So outside of that, when that bracket is released, I typically always have that one game that pops out at me that I'm like, that's the one that I feel really comfortable and confident about. This year, that happened to be Grand Canyon in their first round matchup, a 4-13 matchup against Maryland. And the other one is a 5-12 matchup, which I like Clemson so much. It's really hard for me even today.
They played some good ball this season.
They do. And their experienced group that is, bringing back a lot of the guys, most of their contributing players that brought a lot of production last year on a team that went to the Elite 8. But the concern there was the fact that they drew who I thought was always going to be in this bracket, no matter who they got, was going to be a really tough out for them. And that is Will Wade's team in McNeese State. So I find the games that kind of reach out to me and say, I don't care who tries to talk you off the ledge of these. these are the one or two that I lock in. Now, when I talk about obviously advancing teams and so forth, it's going to sound like a really bad answer, but I've been watching it for so long. Sometimes I sit back and think, can this advancing this team and advancing this team and seeing them play in the next round something that I can actually see happening, right? And so with that, sometimes that's where I go. I just try not to overthink it, you know, to be honest with you. And I try and look and see if there's games that I can really see happening and differentiate that from the ones that I can't really see happening. No, I don't think that there's really like a format or anything like that, to be honest.
Right. Now, Deshaun, I know that you've been a Michigan State follower and loyalist for a while.
How would you know? How would you know, Dre?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
How would you know?
So I got a twofold question for you. How did you become so loyal to Michigan State? And what do you think about their first round matchup against Bryant? Is this a situation where Bryant actually has a chance to have a huge upset against Tom Izzo and his squad?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in Lansing, so that kind of self-explanatory. And I know that there's some people, God bless them, who's born in Lansing as well, and they're, you know, on the other side of the tracks. But nonetheless, it's a diehard thing in my household. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm a relatively new dad as of the last 2 years, and we just recently welcomed baby Breslin as the new addition to our family. If you're not familiar, Michigan State plays at the Breslin Center. So that's kind of how that whole thing worked out. I always joke with mom all the time and tell her, you're lucky we didn't have a son or we was going to name him Michigan. Then he'd be Michigan Tate. But that's a whole nother conversation. I try and cook something up, Joe. But no, so that's just kind of where my loyalties lie, always have and always will. But in terms of that particular matchup, Bryant's a good team, and if you look over the course of the last 2 years in the non-conference, they've also taken down some teams as well in the non-conference, and those are some Power 5 teams. So is this the best mid-major or low-major team that's going to be in the bracket? No. I'm sure you know Tom Izzo and those guys don't necessarily want to hear that, and there's some vulnerability to that. I think Michigan State is one of those teams that can beat anybody in this bracket, honestly.
Yeah.
On the reverse side of that, and just about anybody can beat Michigan State in this bracket as well. So there's no clear-cut favorites to any of this. But if you go back and you remember the head coach from St. Joe's and Phil Martelli, the head coach for Bryant is Phil Martelli Jr., the son of the great Phil Martelli. So
interesting.
It's going to be a great game. But listen, I anticipate this being one that Michigan State will win. The winner goes on to meet up with New Mexico, the winner of New Mexico and Marquette, which should be very interesting as well. So I like the draw Michigan State got. I like them being in the region in which they are. You play your first 2 games close in Cleveland, and then you win those 2. And then they come on down here to the A and to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. So for Nadi and for Joe, who want to know why I love Michigan State so much, let them win these first 2 games in this tournament and come here to Atlanta next weekend, and y'all go to the game, and you're going to see why I'm so enamored with Sparty the way I am.
I love it. That's a great transition for me, Deshaun, because when you talk about Michigan State, I bring up Tom Izzo. Tom Izzo has been around a long time. And recently I've heard Rick Pitino say that he doesn't want to even recruit any high school students. I've heard Coach Hurley from UConn say that he's going to probably have half his team going to transfer portal. Bruce Pearl, he's got an old team. I mean, he's a veteran-laden team. How in all your years of following college basketball, seeing the change and the shift in NIL and the way you orchestrate and build a team now, and especially somebody like Tom Izzo, who's been doing it like Krzyzewski and Roy Williams and some of those guys that left recently because of the NIL and transfer portal. How's he been able to adapt, in your opinion?
I don't know that he's done the greatest job of adapt into it, to be honest with you. I mean, when you go and look at what he's done recently, I mean, they went to a Final Four in 2019, but 2020, obviously, there was COVID, and he hasn't been out of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament since they went on that run to the Final Four, 5 or 6 years ago. So all things being considered, a lot of people, a lot of the signs and fingers has been pointing towards the fact that Tom Izzo does not want to, indulge into the NIL and not really want to get all into the transfer portals. He's not really that type of guy that typically does much of that. When he has done it, it hasn't really been with like big name guys and so forth. He plays a lot of loyalty to guys that came here and want to be here and in very early stages of their lives made decisions that they knew they want. Michigan State is one of those programs that, you don't leave them hanging around when you're making your decision on where you want to go. When you go to state, you go because you've been knowing that that's where you want to go.
You grew up a lifelong fan.
Exactly. There ain't too much waiting around, and you respect the program. You know what you're going to get. He's going to be a hard butt on you. You know what I'm saying? But it's to make a better man out of you. And in a world like today, in an era and generation in which basketball is being played and coached, it's more about transaction and business than it is about just coaches that really want to get players better and turn them into better men. So he's going to get his experienced guys. I know you asked this in the last question in terms of when you're filling out that bracket, and this kind of ties into that because you do want to have those experienced players on your roster. That's something, a box that Michigan State checks. You want to have those experienced guard play, another box. Hall of Fame coaches that have been there before on this stage. That's another one as well. In depth, guys that can go deep. Michigan State is a team that goes 10 deep. So, all of those things play a part. But I think where we see with NIL, that is good for college basketball because it's good and bad in some ways. I hear people for so many years saying, oh, well, it's hard to keep up with the guys that, one and dones, and the turnaround and turnover is just so often in college basketball. But what the NIL does is give people like Hunter Dickinson and maybe Zach Edey last year and some others to say, you know what, I can make more money on the collegiate level. Maybe perhaps that was Caitlin Clark a year ago or whatever, to say I could stick around in college, make more money on the collegiate level, right? Give people an opportunity to keep up with the game and remembering those names that are returning back instead of jumping to go pro, which is the benefit of all this, and then decide to go to the NBA or WNBA for that matter afterwards. So I think that is good for both. It's just the unfortunate part of NIL, I think, Joe, and forgive me for the long-winded answer, is that you're going to get some players who are going to get paid a good, decent amount of money on the collegiate level, and they're not going to work as hard to get to that ultimate level, to get that ultimate bag, and they're kind of limiting themselves to a degree mentally.
And real quick, Nadi, a perfect example of that, in my opinion, is R.J. Davis at UNC at North Carolina. And, obviously, I think 2 years ago, he probably could have left and gone to the NBA, but constantly for 2 straight years, he returned the Tar Heels. And I don't know if his stock rise the way it should have rose because I think he settled a little bit. Now, he was on fire last night. I must say, this is the wrong time for me to be criticizing him about, coming back. But I thought that NIL money, and I thought to be able to be around that campus allowed him the decision to say, hey, let me hang around because maybe those coaches and maybe the scouts say I'm a second round or late second round pick or late first round pick. I can come back and make a little bit more money.
And that's my question to you, Deshaun. Because of the NIL and the NCAA men's, they're trying to, I guess, create that star power, that process. I want to know, who are the guys that we should be watching for in this tournament who are potential NBA prospects going forward, whether it's this year or whether it's next year? Who are those guys we need to be watching for in this tournament?
Well, I think the obvious answer here, right, is easily going to be Cooper Flagg. I think that's just kind of one that you really have to start with. I don't think that there's nearly as many in this particular tournament when it comes to such things. I know that there's some guys that are not going to be participating in the NCAA tournament, so I don't want to get away from your question, but there's a couple guys that are at Rutgers. That whether you're looking at Harper, he's one. Excuse me, he's one of the guys. There's a few, but I'll be honest with you. I don't really see anybody in this class, and I want to answer your question, but I really want to be truthful about how I really feel. I don't really feel like there's many guys on the collegiate level this year that can go to the NBA and make an impact. If we talking about guys leaving it just to go get a bag and so forth, okay, we can have that conversation all day, right? But I don't think that there's too many guys that are NBA ready or relatively ready to make that jump to the NBA, if I'm just being really transparent. Like this isn't really the tournament when you're looking for a names tournament. This isn't really the draft in which you're going to find, that player that's like, your quintessential Zion, RJ Barrett type and so forth. Mm-hmm. This isn't really that particular NCAA tournament. You got some that you can sprinkle in here and there. This tournament is more so going to be based off of its teams.
Yep. I like that as well. And so when you talk about the coaches and you're talking about in-game adjustments, sometimes you have to look to the sideline to try to be able to decipher who's been here before, where's the talent coming from. So who you got? We can't let you get out of here without saying who you have in the Final Four and who you have to cut down the nets and hear Luther Vandross.
I typically don't do too much in terms of keeping it chalk, going with ones and twos. This year I'm gonna take a flyer on it. I'm gonna roll with a 1 seed Duke. I'm gonna roll with a 1 seed Houston, a 2 seed St. John's, and a 2 seed Michigan State. 2 1s and 2 2s with St. John's and Houston meeting in the national championship game. And it's about time that we start giving the Hall of Fame coach, in my opinion, Kelvin Sampson, his due. And that national championship as one of the best coaches that this, not only in college basketball this year, but that this game has ever saw without a national championship. And we start putting him into that category or conversation with those who, that fraternity of guys who at least have one. I'm going to go with Houston. In Texas, right up the road, by the way.
I like it, and I like it a lot because it goes back to, with the exception of John Shire, and we know who got John Shire got to his tutelage under his Coach K, Coach Krzyzewski. All those are Hall of Fame coaches you mentioned. Rick Pitino, Hall of Fame guy. Calvin Sampson, you mentioned, a Hall of Fame guy. Duke, he's on the up and coming, but he's been tutored. So yeah, that's a pretty solid list, man. You might have to. It's not too late for me to change my bracket, is it?
No, it's not. And it ain't going to be too late for me to change mine either. Because I'm going to tell you what. Here's the thing I need everybody to always understand as I get asked this question all the time. You have until Thursday around noon when those brackets have to be like finalized and official and so forth. So, there may be some changes. I'm sure there's going to be some that I'm going to make to that of my own. So that's why I was going to tell you guys the same thing. That's kind of my rough draft from what I'm looking at as of right now. But I will tell you one last thing, and this is going to be one to keep an eye on. I thought that this was really a concerning thing for Houston, who after that first round game, if they can find a way, Gonzaga, that is, to get out of that first round matchup as an 8-9 seed and match up with Houston. And this, I know Gonzaga and everybody's kind of over it and so forth after all these years that they have failed to succeed and get to that next level of winning a national championship. Mm-hmm. But if they meet up with Houston in that second round, that's going to be a really tough game in that particular region in the Midwest between Houston, Gonzaga as an 8 seed, and Clemson as a 5 seed. One of those three are coming out, and I anticipate them making a deep run.
Let me get you out of here on this, Deshaun. My final pick is Auburn and Houston. Is that too far of a stretch? But also, I would like to know, and this is In the Huddle with Joe Hamilton, and we do have Deshaun Tate on today, who is, man, his college basketball expertise is through the roof. I want to know where will you be? I know you're doing some traveling. Where will you be located covering the tournament this year?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm leaving tomorrow morning. I'm going to Cleveland. That is a few games that are going to be played out of the South region from that standpoint. And I believe out of the West region, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm gonna go to Cleveland tomorrow, so that's Thursday. They'll have Friday games there. I'll leave and go to Detroit. Funeral, unfortunate set of circumstances. Return back from there and go back to Cleveland in the same day. Do Cleveland's games on Sunday. Return back to Atlanta. Drop the dirty clothes off and put clean ones in. And then we'll do. I'll probably go check out a game. Likely in Indianapolis to go check out that region, but coming back here to Atlanta for Sweet 16 and Elite 8, finish that off here, and then of course drop the dirties and put clean ones in and head out to San Antonio for the Final Four. So I'm anticipating that. I usually send my family off to Florida, man, so I can do everything that I need to do. But this time I brought some more family in to kind of help out with March. Best time of the year, no question.
Ooh, those Scout miles are through the roof, huh?
Hey, man, listen, I've been fortunate enough to be able to be employed through Delta, and that's been a real blessing. So you better believe that, you know, if they're gonna work the heck out of me, I'm gonna make sure that I get them for what I need them for as well. So
that's right.
Right, and that has been Deshaun Tate. Man, we appreciate you for coming on, man, and sharing your expertise with us today. Big round of
thanks a lot, Deshaun. Thanks a lot.
Love you.
I appreciate you guys for having me, man. Blessing and prosperity. And make sure y'all send me over them brackets, man. I don't want to see no stuff scratched out after Thursday. I need to see them brackets, Jack. Take the pictures of them and the whole nine. Thank y'all for having me, man.
For sure, man.
Yes,
appreciate it. Thank you. Joe, I can't let you off the hook, Joe.
What you mean?
You got. I need a hook. Your final four, and we put Deshaun on the hook. I told you who I like in the finals. I didn't know who you like in the finals.
I absolutely like the Florida Gators against the Duke Blue Devils. I have all 4 number 1 seeds reaching the Final Four. I don't usually go chalk. This is the second time in I think 25 years that it would be the second time in like 25 years that all number 1 teams made it to the Final Four. And I have the Duke Blue Devils and Cooper Flag cutting down the nets. And then I love Houston and Calvin Sampson, the way they play ball. The way they play ball, they move the ball around, they play as a team, they play as a unit. But I just think the depth of the SEC has prepared Florida. That gauntlet playing Alabama, playing Auburn, Tennessee. Every week in that SEC, there was a big game. I thought that prepared, and just Duke's talent, and when they recruit, they flash a McDonald's All-American after the McDonald's All-American at you. So there you go. The Gators against the Blue Devils, and the Blue Devils hold up another trophy as far as winning the NCAA tournament.
All right, I hear you, Joe. I hear you. It sounds good. I mean, you can't go wrong with Duke. You can't go wrong with going chalk. But speaking of can't go wrong, let me make a pivot to the NFL, and we got to talk about the Atlanta Falcons holding on to Kirk Cousins. Is this a situation where they can't go wrong getting rid of him, or they can't go wrong to keep him? I don't know. What are your thoughts on Kirk Cousins staying in Atlanta, making the amount of bread that he's making?
In my humble opinion, this is being petty by the Atlanta Falcons. And I get what they're doing. You can't find a trade partner. You can't find somebody that will give you the compensation you want from Kirk Cousins. I get all that. But it's very strange to me that you're going to sit there and pay Kirk Cousins a roster bonus when this whole entire offseason you were saying that there's no doubt about Michael Penix Jr. being the guy. This is his team.
Right.
You said that at the combine, the general manager and the head coach said that. So I don't think that's setting the guy up to win, Michael Penix Jr. And by all accounts, I know exactly who Kirk Cousins is. I know how he's been a standout teammate. He's not going to, stir up the quarterback room. He's not going to cause angst. He's not going to be a distraction or a problem. But I mean, as a human being, when you're Michael Penix Jr. and you make a mistake in practice, or you make a mistake in the game, or you might lose 2 games in a row, or go on a struggle a little bit, so to speak, or not play your best game in a 2-quarter period or a 2-game period, the media, the teammates, all those guys are going to start chirping. start chirping about should Kirk Cousins be in there. It is not going to be rightfully so. It's not going to be due diligence. It's not going to make sense because you're riding with Michael Penix. But I think you could have avoided that. And for you to thinking that, and this is nitpicky and a little bit stubborn, saying that we don't want to be wrong with this move. Almost a year ago this time, we signed Kirk Cousins to a big deal, $100 million guaranteed, and we drafted Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall. We don't want to be wrong on either of those choices we made. We want to be right. So we want to be in a position where we can keep Michael Penix Jr. and play him and start him. And also the fact that if something happens, we have a backup plan that's a veteran Kirk Cousins, and we will pay him $10 million to get it done.
But, Joe, considering Michael Penix's injury history coming from college, he's had a lot of injuries, 3-4 injuries. Every NFL team needs a solid backup quarterback. Is that not correct?
That's correct, but at what cost? I mean, when I say you being nitpicky, kid, you have gotten anything for Kirk Cousins on the trade block? Could you go out there and get another quarterback that might be cheaper? And I know you're going to still be on the hook for Kirk Cousins if you cut him with the salary cap and the dead money. You're going to still be hooked on him, yes. But again, you can find value with Kirk Cousins. If you didn't want to have to, Kirk Cousins has a no trade clause. So you're going to have to be very picky if Kirk Cousins say, I don't want to go to this place and I don't want to go to that place. I'm going to be very specific where I'm going. So you don't have everybody you can trade him to. I understand that. But at some point, you're going to have to try to make this decision a right decision. It didn't turn out to be right with Kirk Cousins yet. And the only way and my point to what you're saying, Nadi, you're not rooting for it, but the only way for you to can say the Kirk Cousins signing, paying him $10 million can work out for you is if Michael Penix Jr. get hurt. And we don't want that to happen. If Michael Penix Jr. goes out and he plays 17 games, then and Kirk Cousins only gets in mop-up duty, or maybe there is no mop-up duty type game.
Correct.
You would have paid $10 million for a guy that, did not even get in the game.
One of my things is math. I've always been great at math.
It's better to be safe than sorry.
I was one of the best math students in college. My college professor said I was the best math student she ever seen. With that being said, last year you signed Kirk Cousins to the contract that he got signed. You drafted a quarterback in Michael Penix. So the quarterback room salary was at A. Okay, this season Michael Penix is set to start. Kirk Cousins is set to be the backup. That quarterback salary hasn't changed. It's still at A. How are the Falcons losing?
Ooh wee. That's big time, Nadi. That's big time. That's good stuff. There's no rebuttal to the point to where they're still winning. But all I can say to you in that instance is that it's going to be a little cloudy on the young fella. We're having Kirk Cousins in there. It's not going to be smooth sailing like you've been wanting to go. He's going to look over and whether he's a tough competitor, whether he's going to compete and they're telling him, this is your team, don't worry about it. There's something about seeing a veteran in that room. Will it affect him? I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. But I want to do anything I can possibly do to protect that young guy. And if it's having a veteran out of that room that you might be thinking over your head or overthinking it, I would like to remove that veteran. But what you said is spot on. Now, again, I must go back to the situation where Kirk Cousins wasn't playing good ball. Correct. So we got to wonder if Kirk Cousins is healthy now. We got to wonder if Kirk Cousins revamped that shoulder that he injured in the New Orleans Saints game. We got to understand that is he 1 year strong on that Achilles that he ruptured. So all those things are, you're absolutely correct, Nadi. But with Kirk Cousins, the last time we saw him, he wasn't a $10 million type quarterback.
He wasn't a $10 million quarterback. And let's look at it. The NFL this year, the salary cap went up to $279.2 million per team. That's about a $24 million increase. And we've seen around the league, Joe, these players are capitalizing on this. We just saw Jamar Chase. We saw Max Crosby, first of all, set the non-quarterback market. Myles Garrett followed right behind him, and then Jamar Chase followed right behind him. The Bengals also paid T. Higgins, and then we just seen Stingley get $40 million. I mean, what he got? $90 million total. I mean, let's talk about this money, Joe. These players are getting big raises.
I'm confused now, and not in a bad way. I'm just confused of where this is heading, because a few years back, you can kind of see where it's heading and who they were giving all the monies to. They were giving the monies to the quarterbacks and then some wide receivers. The running backs were thrown in there a little bit, defensive end. But now with Jesse Bates, you're paying the safeties who came to Atlanta. You're paying safeties now. You just mentioned Derek Stingley Jr. They're paying the cornerbacks now. They're paying the wide receivers. A wide receiver is making $40 million. And it's great for the players because you always want to make sure you get your value for the next guy that's coming in line. So who's the next standout corner? Pat Surtain just signed well. So he signed, and then Derek Stingley Jr., he had to go and sign it because the value, the market was raised, or they showed you where the market was. Now you look at it again, Max Crosby. Matt Crosby forced Myles Garrett to say, hold. Thank you for resetting this market, but ain't no way you're going to be making more money than me. I'm a better. And so now who's going to trickle down to help now? It's going to help Michael Parsons out. Michael Parsons is going to look at it and say, well, I might not be as good as Myles Garrett, but I came in the same draft class with Jamar Chase. He's a wide receiver, and he catches from the quarterback, but I affect the quarterback as far as a defensive end. Am I going to join the $40 million club now? So when you look at it, I think it's very, very good. And now as a GM, and you get the salary cap, and it's going up a little bit, and you got to worry about the dead money. You got to be careful how you build a team because it's very simple. And I like to I like to keep it simple, and I like to go quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, and then I want my cornerback. And I just feel, and the reason why I go there, you didn't hear me say anything about running back yet or wide receiver, because I don't need a standout guy there right away yet. I can get that. So some of those are my priorities: quarterback, left tackle, defensive end, cornerback, and then I'll trickle down and piece in my running back and piece in a number 2 wide receiver somewhere down the line.
Well, Joe, depending on who your quarterback is, those specialty players, they help attribute to the growth of said quarterback who's going to be your franchise guy and the guy that you're going to pay the bulk of your salary cap to. Also, with this new salary, specifically Stingley getting the money that he got, what does this do for Sauce Gardner? And is Jalen Ramsey going to want to go back, and is he going to want to renegotiate what he's getting?
Well, Jalen Ramsey, outstanding. I think he's borderline. I know he does have a Super Bowl ring from the Rams, so he's borderline Hall of Famer to me. I might give it to him in a couple more years of doing what he's doing. He's a lockdown corner, but he's going to have to wait his time. He's not the premier corner anymore, so he might can rip that contract up and say, I'm worth a little bit more money than you're giving me. Maybe pay me top 5, top 7. But it's the Surtains of the world. It's the Derek Stingley Juniors of the world. It's it's Sauce Gardners, those young boys. It's your boy over there in Chicago, Jalen Johnson over there in Chicago. That's really, really good. So he wants those guys to bring that market up a little bit. But there's no doubt that those DBs are clapping. Those DBs are clapping just like Justin Jefferson clapped when Jalen Waddle and some of those young guys, Tyreek Hill and all those guys were getting mega contracts as wide receivers. They clapped. They clapped because I'm next. So now it's gonna be back on the players to say that let's not bring this value back down. I'll show you another example. I'll tell you another example. Saquon Barkley just did his job for the running backs. And Derrick Henry did that job for the running backs, and the Philadelphia Eagles rewarded him with a new deal, paying him $20 million. I mean, he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles for $12.5 million, and that was the going rate. So now he balled, he performed, he went back to the table, and now that market is going up a little bit. So I'm very happy for the players and have these owners spend and making sure that GM He's just not spending money carelessly. He's trying to build a roster the right way.
That's right. I think a lot of running backs, the rookie salary cap did them a disservice. Running backs are one of the few positions that I believe they need to get their money out of college. Because their first 3 to 4 years, with the amount of pounding that they're going to put on their body, the amount of usage that they're going to get, especially for a good team and a good running back, it seems to make their next contract, the value of that player declines because he's already got beaten up for the first 4 years.
You spot on, man. You spot on, and you can name them. Like I could name them in the past 10 years or 12 years, the guys that got drafted in the first or the top 15 picks. They didn't last. They got second contracts, yes. Look at Christian McCaffrey. Right. I mean, he's been injured. He's injured now, almost missed the whole entire season. Look at Saquon Barkley. He got his money now, but I think he went through 2 major injuries. All those guys Ezekiel Elliott. See how he lived through that contract, but he dwindled. I mean, he fell off a cliff after that. So now these Dalvin Cook. I mean, I know Dalvin Cook wasn't first round, but even Dalvin Cook and some of those guys that by the time you get to that contract, that wear and tear and the injury and the way you put your body on the line it just does not make sense. And I agree with you with this one, Nadi. I would always try to get a running back in the first round. To pick up that 5th-year option, make sure I played for 5 years, and if I can get him and he can, like Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty, the Heisman runner-up from Boise State, I would draft him with no intentions of having him have that second contract. I would get off 5 years from Genty, 5 really good years, and then let somebody else pay for him, and I can go back in that market. Even if he gives me 5 Hall of Fame type years, I wouldn't have to pay that boatloads of bukus of money because it's wear and tear that comes along with that.
Right. You know, where the running back usually can't control his destiny, that's usually set for the quarterback. And you got a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers who wants to control his own destiny as he's about to exit the game. How do you feel about the way Aaron Rodgers is playing his hand right now?
Aaron Rodgers is playing his hand like it's 10 years ago. He's playing his hand like he is a 4-time MVP, 1-time Super Bowl champ, one of the baddest dudes on the planet with his release, his accuracy, and the way he sees the game. He's trying to play that hand. That hand is gone now. He's got a hand of a couple of spades, but it's low spades, man. It's low spades. And I'm talking about he's a locker room guy. He's a locker room distraction at this point. That's why Cam Hayward, the all-world defensive tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, said that I'm tired of talking about Aaron Rodgers. We made you a pitch. There's money on the line. Either you want to be here or you don't want to be here. I'm not going to wine and dine you. But I make that point up to say 10 years ago, Cam Hayward would have wine and dined him. 10 years ago, the Aaron Rodgers that he was, Cam Hayward would say, "Yeah, I got him, and let me take him out. I'll make sure I do those type things." Right. But not now. Not now. He's not worth it when you're going to go in that dark place doing minicamp, when you're going to miss mandatory meetings and some of those because you're going on vacation with your homeboys. Some of those things now you want to bring in Nathaniel Hackett. You want to bring in everybody that can coach you and bring in your homeboys that you played with before. You don't no longer have that cachet. That is gone now. That's gone. So now you're looking at a guy in Minnesota. Minnesota said, JJ McCarthy, we'll deal with him because we're not quite sure. We don't want to put up with the things we're going to have to put up with you, Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers, that's why they're holding on. And I would be surprised. And I said to Stu last week, man, I would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers is through playing in the NFL.
Right. So you almost saying like 20 years ago, Vivica Fox was the answer. But now that you are 16, you want to marry me now. On your terms.
On your terms now.
Right.
And you got that wear and tear on you. Yeah, you got more wisdom. You got more wisdom, but you have that wear and tear. And I saw what you did to an organization. I saw what the
what you did to all
expectation.
those guys back then.
I,
Right.
I saw how you pointed the fingers. I saw how you cursed the coach
Right.
out. I saw how you would say some things like, "Hey, man, when you do some things, you're not held accountable." And I'm willing to put up with that. Now, hear me and hear me good, Naughty. I'm willing to put up with that when you were Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But now I can't. Now I can't. You're going to
Right.
destroy my team. No, I have to think long and hard about that, brother.
Was talking about MVPs. NBA got a good MVP race going on right now.
Yeah.
The Joker is putting up amazing numbers. I mean, the numbers are numbers that never been put up before, especially by a guy at his position. But SGA has the best team, and I mean, he's been balling out of his mind too, Joe. Where are you leaning when it comes to the NBA MVP race?
Man, I'm not going to do it anymore like I did last year or I did earlier this year, and I made a big mistake. I think it was maybe 30, 35 games left in the season, and I said hands down, it's SGA right now, MVP. There's no way hand him the award right now. And I counted those chickens before they hatched big time. Because the Joker have been consistently doing what he's been doing the entire season. And I cannot ignore the numbers anymore, Nadi. I cannot ignore the numbers. I mean, close 30, 13, and 11. That's not barely a triple-double. That's easily a triple-double. And that's putting it up night in, night out. And if you take him off that basketball team, and I know they have Gordon, and I know they have Murray. I know they have those guys, but man, if you take him off that team is going to plummet. That team is not going to be good. Now, SGA is so hard. It's so hard for me to have this discussion because he's balling, and SGA is giving it to you on the defensive end with the steals, defending the best point guard or the two guard, medium range, off the chain. 3-point shot is improved. Leads the league in scoring. Leads the league in 40-point games. But it's just hard, man. I've seen guys score like this before. I've seen this, but I have not seen anybody do what the Joker's doing before. That big, that dominant, and here we go with the same conversation you and I had about Lamar Jackson.
Correct. That's what I was going to get to.
Lamar Jackson fatigue. Voters fatigue. I mean, is it the fact that that's enough for Joker? Let somebody else have a turn or have a shot at it because he's having the best year he's ever had.
Exactly. And he's won 3 MVPs with worse years.
So what's the criteria now? Again, I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad if SGA wins it, but I can't sit here and not tell you or not acknowledge to you. I've never seen a guy now. Russell Westbrook, yeah, he did average a triple-double. He did that for a couple
the other night.
Yeah, he did that for a whole season when he was in his prime and he won the MVP.
Did it 4 times.
Did it 4 times in a season. See, we gloss over that. Like, that's just normal.
I don't gloss over it. I don't gloss over it.
Yeah, that's the real deal. So now when you see Jokers doing that on a consistent basis, in a big man like that, you gotta acknowledge it, man. You must acknowledge it, and it's all good to acknowledge that SGA is doing his dance as well, but not to the tune, man, of what Joker is doing. I'm sorry. I am sorry. Right.
Well, Joe, let's get in the huddle, man. We're gonna huddle up with Joe real quick and see what the game plan is. What we got.
Man, the game plan is very simple, man. I'm gonna call it play. We're gonna go on first down. We're not gonna try to draw anybody offside. But that play, man, what I've been doing lately, Nadi, is I've been jotting my thoughts down, almost like journaling. Because every now and then, man, whether it's your significant other, your kids, your best friend, every now and then you can't get everything off your chest you want to get to. You can't let it all rip out. You can't let it all just be on the table. You would want that partner. You would want that person to let it all, and y'all can conversate, whether it's a therapist, whether it's somebody, but it just can't be all let out on the table. But you can go to that journal. You can go to that phone. You can go to that little piece of paper or that notebook and jot those thoughts down. And when you come up and think about it on the next day or the day after or a week after, and you date it and see what you've been thinking, see how you adjusted that thinking, see what you did to combat that thinking, whether it's good or bad, journaling and then keeping a tabs on what you did, good or bad, and how it made you feel is something that's been helping me out tremendously, as opposed to always trying to have to find somebody else to talk to. Now, I don't want to forget about the human element of a partner and letting them know something, but just jotting it down and talking to yourself has been very, very helpful for me, brother.
Oh, man, that's good stuff, man. This has been In the Huddle with Joe Hamilton. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. And please share. There's somebody out here who need this sports knowledge. Straight from Joe Hamilton. We had Deshaun Tate on talking college basketball. Man, this has been a very fast hour, Joe. It was quick.
My goodness, man,
it was very enjoyable, though.
And informative, man. I really enjoyed that one, man. Goodness. And it gave me the feeling of what we're going through. March Madness, excitement. It just gave me that great feeling about something good is about to happen, brother. Right.
Well, until next week, hey, we appreciate y'all for showing up in the chat. Loose Neck, everybody who showed up. We'll see y'all next week right here in the Huddle with Joe Hamilton. Peace.